My beloved child. Before you move on, pause for just a moment. There are moments in life that quietly change everything, and this fictional story begins with one of those moments. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Imagine someone you love standing on the other side of a phone call they have rehearsed 100 times in their mind. Their heart is racing. Their hands are trembling. They have started typing a message, then erased it. Started again. Then erased it once more. Not because they have forgotten you. Not because they no longer care. But because what happened today has changed the direction of everything they believed about the future. If they could sit beside you right now, they would only say one thing. Please, let me explain. That single sentence carries more emotion than years of silence ever could. The hours that just passed were unlike any they had experienced before. Something unexpected forced them to look at memories they had buried deep inside themselves. Every excuse they had been hiding behind suddenly felt meaningless. Don't skip. Because this is only the beginning. Every second you stay with this story reveals another piece of the mystery. They walked away from a conversation today with their heart feeling heavier than ever before. Someone asked them a simple question. If you had one chance to speak honestly to the person you keep thinking about, what would you say? The room became completely silent. For several long moments, they couldn't answer. Not because there was nothing to say. Because there was far too much. Something huge is waiting for you. What happened next became the turning point of this entire story. And nothing after that moment would ever feel the same again. Everything changed the moment they finally stopped running from the truth. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The silence around them no longer felt empty. It felt like the few seconds before a storm finally breaks. Every memory they had tried to ignore returned with surprising clarity. They remembered the conversations left unfinished, the words swallowed by fear, and the opportunities that slipped away simply because neither heart knew how to speak first. What happened today forced them to face something they had avoided for far too long. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a coincidence. It was one unexpected moment that made them realize how quickly life can change without warning. A stranger spoke a sentence that seemed ordinary to everyone else, but to them it felt deeply personal. What if tomorrow never gives you another chance to say what matters today? Those words stayed with them long after the conversation ended. From that instant onward, they could no longer pretend everything was fine. They knew they needed to reach you. Not next week. Not someday. As soon as possible. Don't skip. Every moment of this story is leading to something important. They opened old photographs they hadn't looked at in months. They smiled for a second, then became emotional. Every picture reminded them of a promise that was never spoken aloud but somehow always existed between two hearts. Questions filled their mind. What if I've waited too long? What if they no longer believe in me? What if silence has already done too much damage? Those questions became impossible to ignore. Something huge is waiting for you. As evening arrived, another unexpected event unfolded. Someone close to them noticed the change in their expression and quietly asked, "Is there someone you wish you could talk to right now?" Without thinking, your name escaped their lips. The room became completely still. For the first time, They admitted what they had been hiding from everyone, including themselves. They didn't want another day to pass without trying to make things right. Yet there was one final obstacle. A fear they had carried for a long time. What if reaching out only created more distance? That single thought almost convinced them to remain silent once again. But then something happened that changed everything. Their phone lit up. It wasn't your message. It wasn't a phone call. It was a simple reminder they had completely forgotten about. One connected to a memory that instantly brought your face back into their heart. They stared at the screen for several long moments. Then they whispered quietly to themselves. I can't keep waiting. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because the next part reveals the decision they finally make, and why this moment could become the turning point of the entire story. A quiet decision was made that no one else could see. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. For what felt like an eternity, they sat in complete silence, holding their phone but never pressing a single button. Their heart wanted to speak immediately, yet their mind kept reminding them of every past misunderstanding, every missed opportunity, and every moment when fear had spoken louder than honesty. But this time felt different. Today had changed something deep inside them. The excuses that once sounded convincing now felt empty. The walls they had built around their emotions were beginning to crumble, one thought at a time. They realized that keeping everything hidden would only create more regret. As the evening grew quieter, they reached for an old notebook resting on a nearby shelf. Inside were pages filled with unfinished thoughts, forgotten dreams, and words they had never found the courage to share. One page caught their attention. Written across the top was a simple sentence. One day, I will tell them everything. They stared at those words for a long time. That one day had finally become today. Don't skip. Because every moment is bringing this story closer to its biggest revelation. They slowly began writing again, not because they wanted the perfect message, but because they wanted their heart to stop carrying such a heavy burden. Every sentence came from a place of honesty. They wrote about the smiles they still remembered. They wrote about the conversations they wished had lasted longer. They wrote about the moments they almost reached out but allowed fear to stop them. Most importantly, they wrote about the lesson they had learned today, that waiting for the perfect time often means missing the most important opportunities. Something huge is waiting for you. Just as they finished writing, another unexpected interruption occurred. A close friend happened to stop by. The friend noticed the notebook lying open and quietly asked, "Are you finally going to tell them the truth?" For several seconds, there was no answer. Then, with complete certainty, they nodded. Yes. It was the first confident answer they had given in a very long time. The friend smiled gently and said something that stayed in their heart. Honest words may feel difficult at first, but they often become the beginning of peace. Those words gave them the courage they had been searching for. Without hesitation, they picked up their phone once more. This time, they didn't put it back down. Their hands still trembled. Their heart was still racing. But determination had become stronger than fear. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because what happens next is the moment they finally decide to reach out, and the message they are about to send may change the direction of this entire story forever. At that very moment, the silence finally came to an end. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. They unlocked their phone one more time, but this time there was no hesitation. The message they had rewritten countless times no longer needed to be perfect. It only needed to be honest. Their fingers rested on the screen for a brief moment before they began to type. Every word carried the weight of everything they had been unable to say. I've been trying to find the right moment to talk to you, but today showed me that waiting only creates more distance. There is something important I need you to know. They paused. Read the message again. Closed their eyes. Then added one final sentence. I hope you'll give me a chance to explain. For a few long seconds, they simply stared at the screen. Their heartbeat felt louder than the quiet room around them. Then they pressed send. Something huge is waiting for you. The message disappeared from their screen, but the emotions remained. Relief and uncertainty arrived together. There was no way to take those words back now. For the first time in a long while, they felt they had chosen honesty over fear. Don't skip. Because what happened after that surprised even them. Instead of constantly checking for a reply, they placed the phone beside them and took a deep breath. They realized that true courage isn't only about speaking, it is also about patiently waiting after you've spoken from the heart. Minutes passed. Each one felt longer than the last. Every small sound made them glance toward their phone. Every passing moment filled their mind with questions. Did the message arrive? Will they understand? Will this finally clear away the silence? They didn't know. But they refused to lose hope. As night settled in, they looked out of the window and remembered something they had nearly forgotten. Real connections are not built on perfect timing. They are built on genuine truth. That thought brought an unexpected sense of peace. Stay till the end. The biggest part of this story is still unfolding. No matter what the response would be, today had already changed them. They were no longer hiding behind fear or uncertainty. They had finally chosen honesty, kindness, and hope over endless silence. And perhaps that was the real beginning. Not because every question had already been answered, but because the first brave step had finally been taken. As the screen remained quiet, they smiled gently to themselves and whispered, "Whatever happens next, my heart has finally spoken." The rest of the story now depends on what both hearts choose to do with this new beginning. Don't skip. Stay till the very end of this journey. Because sometimes the most important moment isn't the instant a message is sent. It's the moment two hearts finally become ready to understand each other, opening the door to a future that neither of them thought was still possible. A single notification changed the atmosphere completely. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Just when they had convinced themselves to stop watching the screen, the phone vibrated softly on the table. Their hearts skipped a beat. For a moment, they couldn't bring themselves to look. It wasn't fear anymore. It was hope mixed with uncertainty. Slowly, they picked up the phone. A new message had appeared. It wasn't long. It wasn't dramatic. But every word carried a meaning they never expected. Thank you for being honest. I think we need to talk too. They read it once. Then again. Then one more time. They weren't searching for hidden meanings anymore. They were simply trying to believe it was real. Don't skip. Because this is where everything begins to change. A gentle smile appeared on their face, the kind that comes only after carrying a heavy burden for far too long. The distance that once felt impossible suddenly seemed smaller. Not because every problem had disappeared, but because both hearts had finally chosen honesty instead of silence. Something huge is waiting for you. They quickly realized this conversation could not be rushed. Some moments deserve patience. Some words deserve careful thought. And some feelings deserve to be spoken face to face instead of being hidden behind a screen. So instead of sending another long message, they replied with something simple. Whenever you're ready, I'm here to listen. Those 7 words carried more peace than 100 complicated explanations ever could. Time passed quietly. Neither side felt the need to fill every second with messages. Sometimes understanding grows strongest in calm moments. As they waited, memories no longer felt painful. Instead, they became reminders of everything worth protecting. They remembered the laughter, the encouragement, the quiet moments that had once brought comfort. For the first time in a long while, they stopped focusing on what had gone wrong and started believing in what could still be made right. Stay till the end. The biggest revelation is still ahead. Later that evening, they looked up at the night sky and realized something important. Life rarely changes because of one perfect moment. It changes because ordinary people choose extraordinary honesty. That was the lesson this day had quietly placed in their heart. No more pretending. No more hiding. No more waiting for a perfect tomorrow. Only the courage to move forward with sincerity. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Because in the next and final part, the conversation finally takes place. And one heartfelt truth, spoken without fear, becomes the beginning of a completely new chapter that neither of them ever imagined was still possible. The conversation they had both been waiting for finally began. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. When the time came, there were no rehearsed speeches, no dramatic gestures, and no attempt to erase the past. There were simply 2 hearts willing to listen with honesty. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The silence was no longer uncomfortable. It was peaceful. It was the kind of silence that appears when both people understand that something meaningful is about to happen. Finally, they smiled gently and said, "Thank you for giving me this chance." Those simple words carried more emotion than pages of explanation ever could. Every fear that had once seemed impossible to overcome began to lose its power. They admitted that there had been moments when they almost gave up, moments when uncertainty felt stronger than hope, and moments when they believed the distance between them could never be crossed. But today's events had changed everything. They had learned that keeping important feelings locked away never protects a relationship, it only delays healing. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because the greatest lesson of this story is about to be revealed. As the conversation continued, they realized something unexpected. Neither of them had been searching for perfection. They had only been searching for understanding. Every honest sentence replaced an old misunderstanding. Every patient answer rebuilt a little more trust. Every shared memory reminded them that genuine care is strongest when it is supported by kindness, respect, and truth. Something huge is waiting for you. Hours seemed to pass in what felt like only a few minutes. By the end of the conversation, they looked at one another with a sense of calm they had not experienced in a very long time. Not because every challenge had disappeared, but because they finally knew they were facing the future with honesty instead of fear. One final thought remained in their hearts. Life often gives people another chance, not to relive yesterday, but to create a better tomorrow. That realization became the beginning of an entirely new chapter. Before they parted, they exchanged one simple promise. No matter what tomorrow brings, we will never let silence speak louder than truth again. Those words became more than a promise. They became a foundation for everything that would follow. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. And now, as this fictional journey comes to its close, perhaps the greatest message isn't about dramatic events or unexpected twists. Perhaps it is this. The most meaningful conversations are often the ones we almost never have. A single honest moment can open a door that years of silence could never unlock. A kind word can restore hope where doubt once lived. A listening heart can heal what pride could never repair. So if this story touched your heart, let it remind you that courage is often quiet. It begins with one sincere conversation, one act of understanding, and one decision to choose compassion over fear. Thank you for staying until the very end. Something huge was never just the conversation itself. It was the transformation that honesty created within two hearts willing to move forward with hope. And sometimes, that is where the most beautiful stories truly begin. A new chapter quietly unfolded after that unforgettable conversation. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The next morning didn't feel ordinary. The world looked the same. The streets were unchanged. The sky stretched across the horizon just as it always had. But inside their heart, everything was different. For the first time in a long while, they woke up without the heavy weight of unanswered questions. The uncertainty that had followed them for so long had finally begun to fade. They realized that the greatest victory wasn't receiving a reply. It wasn't hearing comforting words. It wasn't even finding immediate solutions. The greatest victory was finding the courage to be completely honest. That courage had changed them forever. Don't skip. Because this final revelation may be the most important part of the entire journey. As the days moved forward, they noticed something remarkable. Small moments suddenly carried greater meaning. A familiar song no longer reminded them of regret. A favorite place no longer felt empty. Simple memories that once caused sadness had transformed into reminders of hope. They smiled more often. They worried less. They stopped imagining the worst possible outcome. Instead, they began believing that every meaningful relationship grows stronger when both people choose understanding instead of assumptions. Something huge is waiting for you. One evening, they opened the same notebook where they had once written, "One day, I will tell them everything." They turned to the next blank page. This time, they didn't write about fear. They didn't write about missed opportunities. Instead, they wrote a new sentence. Today, I learned that truth spoken with kindness is never wasted. They looked at those words for a long time. Then quietly closed the notebook with a peaceful smile. That chapter of uncertainty had finally ended. A new chapter of trust had begun. Stay till the end. Because there's one final thought that this story wants to leave in your heart. Life has an extraordinary way of surprising us. Sometimes we spend months worrying about conversations that only take a few honest minutes. Sometimes we imagine impossible barriers that disappear the moment someone chooses sincerity. Sometimes the answer we've been waiting for isn't hidden somewhere far away. It's waiting behind one brave decision. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. If this fictional story has reminded you of anything, let it be this. Never underestimate the power of a genuine conversation. Never assume silence tells the whole story. Never believe that kindness is too small to make a difference. The future is often shaped by simple moments when ordinary people decide to speak from the heart. And perhaps the greatest message of all is this. Hope grows stronger whenever honesty leads the way. Thank you for staying until the very last word of this journey. May every new beginning in your own life be guided by understanding, patience, and the courage to say what truly matters before the moment passes. Because sometimes, the conversation you've been waiting for becomes the very moment that changes everything.